Dolores Cannon with us. Dolores, do you think time travel will be possible?
Oh, it's already being experimented on. You know that.
Oh, sure.
You know, the government's been experimenting with it for many, many years. And, you know, there is the theory that a lot of these ETs that are coming are us in the future. And I've had cases of that. See, it's not only just volunteers. We have ET other cases that I've worked on. And sometimes they are us coming back from the future to see what's going on here.
Or to warn us?
Oh, yeah, a lot of times it is to warn us. In one of my books, there was a case of that, where we had destroyed the surface of the earth and were living underneath the earth in an ant farm type existence. And the idea was to come back and tell us, don't let this happen, change the future. But a lot of times they just come back to see, like we would do if we were able to time travel. We'd probably go into the past just to look and see what things were like.
Oh, that's true.
But I know it's possible because, you know, there's no such thing as time anyway. The ETs have said, you know, it's all an illusion. Time is an illusion. The ETs have said we're the only species in the universe has found a way to measure something that does not exist.
Dolores, Michael Cremo believes that humankind might be hundreds of millions of years old, not what present-day scientists think. What are your thoughts on that and the kind of technology we might have had in the past? I mean, I'm still marveled by the pyramids, for example. I don't think we could build them today.
We couldn't. But like I said earlier, there have been many, many civilizations before ours. And of course, when they went down, there's not a trace left of them. And I have had people go back to these. The Atlantis was the last one, but there were many, many before that. And one of them was destroyed. See, always happens with the scientists are messing around with things they're not supposed to be. And we had developed the minds to a tremendous capacity. In one of these civilizations, they burned a hole in the ozone layer. Oh, doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah, sure does.
And the sun came through and scorched the earth and killed everybody at that time. This is one of the things that created the deserts in Africa. But there were times when we had tremendous civilizations, and many of them went down, and they're at the bottom of the ocean. Other ones are buried under mountains and piles of mud and dirt that we will never find any clue that they were ever there. So we have many, many times we have risen and fallen. Not just now. It does go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Are you a fan of Edgar Cayce?
Uh-huh.
Hall of Records, do you think they exist?
Oh, I know they exist, and I know where they are.
Now, he said there were 3 of them, 3 halls of records. I'm going to find out where you think they are. But he said one was in Bimini, where Atlantis might have been, Central America, and at the base of the Sphinx. What do you say?
Well, what I've been told is at the Sphinx.
Okay.
And that they're underground cities, too. There's a whole civilization underground.
Near the Sphinx?
Well, the entrances to these civilizations are underneath pyramids all over the world. And, you know, there's many pyramids found everywhere.
Yes.
So the entrances are underneath the pyramids. But all of these things were put in before the pyramids and the Sphinx were put there. But, yeah, they said the Hall of Records is underneath the Sphinx. And I have a friend who has been down there many times, down into the caverns underneath the Sphinx, trying to help them define these places. Interesting thing is when they go down there, it's always full of water. But when she finally got down there, this one time, the water wasn't there, and she was able to find doors and tunnels. So there's definitely things underneath the Sphinx. But that's where the Hall of Records is. But the information I have is that it's protected by an energy field. So only the right kind of a person will ever be able to find it and to go in and be able to read these things.
What might those Hall of Records possess?
They said they are the history of the world, the history of our beginnings, of mankind. Everything is in these records. But they're written in a strange language, too, that would take a lot of deciphering because it's so old.
Would they talk about a God?
Well, they all believed in God. They've always believed in God.
Well, that's true, too.
The ETs are closer to God than we will ever be.
Do you think the ETs, though, are still trying to figure out how they were created?
Well, they know how they were created because they're one of the creators. I said they are closer to God than they will ever be because many of them don't consume food. They live off of light, and they have to take light baths to replenish the body. And I asked them, well, where does the light come from? He said it comes from the source. This is what they call God. They call God the source.
Interesting.
And without that, they would die.
The light, almost like a plant.
Well, it's absorbing light into the body. And many species live off of light. They don't consume. So a lot of our organs in the body have atrophied. This is why, we see the body, we just see the way it looks after it is developed. Like they said, it could be us in the future, too, as we develop that way, and if our organs were to atrophy from not being used.
Dolores, I've always wondered what deja vu might be.
That's easy.
Is that a dimension cross or something?
Yeah, because, all of these dimensions, we were talking about dimensions earlier, the past, present, and future are all existing at the same time. And, of course, the future is probable futures and possibilities. So there are many, many, many possible futures. But deja vu is when you have the feeling, I've been there before, I've done this before. And in that instant, you have actually gone back to that time or forward to that time, wherever it exists, because you just get a glimpse of it. And that's that feeling of, I've been here before, I've done this before.
How about things like precognition and intuitiveness? Where does all that come from?
Well, that's our natural abilities that we were born with, but we didn't know how to develop them. All of these were very natural in these other civilizations, especially in Atlantis. We know more about Atlantis than the other ones. We have these natural abilities that we developed to the maximum. We can do anything with our minds. And this is how they were able to levitate stone. They were able to mold stone. They did everything with the mind. So what you're talking about is that remnant that is still there. But when Atlantis went down, they said it was like blowing a fuse. They had to pull the plug so that we wouldn't had developed like that. We had to start all over again from the beginning in a primitive state. That's the problem when the civilization is destroyed. It has to start all over again. So that was shut off. But they said now is coming back, and it is there, and it's getting stronger in this time period. So the precognition, the intuitive, the psychic abilities are our natural abilities that are being allowed to come back. I see it happening all over the world where I go. People are becoming more psychic. They're getting these abilities back.
What do they want? What are folks in other lands want to know about the paranormal, the supernatural?
They're excited about all of this. Everybody everywhere is just like us. They are not different. They just want the same things we want. Now, though, they're beginning to open up to these things, and they're very interested in the paranormal, the metaphysics. They're very enlightened, because I said I go to China a lot. Last year I was there 3 times, and I was really surprised. The government tells us all these things about these countries. And I said, you go there and you see for yourself, it's not at all what they tell you it is. Because China, golly, they're happy, they're advanced, they're running around in brand new cars, fancy clothes, and they are really into this metaphysics. They get it. And the same way within Turkey, it was a Muslim country,
sure.
But they understood this, and they wanted more. They wanted more information. This is why I want people to ask more questions, explore, try to get the information firsthand. Don't believe the propaganda we've been handed down. For instance, I had a client last month. I have clients that come to see me from all over the world.
Okay.
I had a client come from Africa. He said, highly advanced, big cities, they have cars, they're one of the richest countries in Africa. And I said, well, all we hear about is those that are starving and having the wars and the refugees. He said, those are little pockets of people. The majority of Africa are very much like we are. Now, see, that's propaganda. Russia wasn't at all what I thought, what they had led us to believe. And I've been over there many times now. I was 4 times in 1 year. They have just now got their freedom back, and they're a little pushy, but they're happy anyway because they have all the modern conveniences. They seem a lot happier than we think.
So you don't believe in end times?
Not really, no. But all my life I've been hearing about the end of the world is going to happen on this date and that date.
Every civilization talks about it, Dolores.
And it never happened yet.
Not yet.
Well, December 21st.
Knock on wood, by the way.
Look how long that was talked about. 5 years before, the world's going to end on December 21st. And they were going on and on. Mayan calendar and all that. And I kept lecturing all over the world and saying it was not going to happen. Well, the December the 21st, I was in London. We had a premiere of a movie that I was in called 3 Magic Words. And we did it specifically on that day when everybody says we're going to ascend, we're going to the end.
That was from Anderson's book, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I told them during the conference, even my show before I went down over there, the rest of you can sit home with your head under the covers. We're going to party. And we did. He had the movie premiere. We had a party, and it was a wonderful time, and the world did not end. So it's always fear, fear, fear.
Let's do a quick review.
Okay.
You say that there are hundreds of other dimensions that are out there, and each one is individual? It stands on its own?
Well, they blend together. You can't draw a line and say this is this. We are in the 3rd dimension right now. And 4th dimension is time, so they skip that one. And they go direct to the 5th dimension. Well, we are already getting into the 5th dimension. But this is different than the other dimensions I was speaking about. Those are larger ones. I guess if you can break it down, there are many of these other smaller ones that are constantly moving and blending and shifting. So the world is not that simple that universe really, that you can draw a line saying here, here, and here. Everything is moving and melding and together all the time.
Well, I'm fascinated at the possibility that people could stumble into these other dimensions and probably not even know it.
Yeah.
Feel wandering around, lost.
Well, those are rare cases.
What if they can't come back?
Well, the Bermuda Triangle is a perfect example.
I mean, some people disappear. We have hundreds of thousands of people on this planet disappear, and nobody knows where they are.
They went into another dimension?
They might have, huh?
They very well could have.
And they can't get back.
That's the problem. That was the problem with the Bermuda Triangle. Now, I can explain the Bermuda Triangle to you, too, if you want me to do that.
And what do you think that is?
I know what it is. See, that was where Atlantis was. Now, Atlantis took up the whole world at that time. It was not just an island out in the middle of the Atlantic. That's where the main part was. But where the Bermuda Triangle was, that was part of Atlantis. And they knew how to time travel. They had perfected it. They knew how to go back and forth between dimensions. And they had a temple there in that part where they did these experiments. And they could time travel. Well, when Atlantis went down, that temple was damaged. And if you could get the mental image of like a mirror, it wasn't a mirror, but something like that was damaged and was still moving and functioning to a certain degree. And every once in a while, it would flash upward toward the surface of the ocean. And anybody happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time would be sent into another place in time, because that was time travel. So they can't get back. They're stuck there in that other time. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it sure does.
It's the malfunction of a machine that was damaged when Atlantis went down.